Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
How you doing, folks? Welcome back to World of Tanks with Scout. It's been a while since I've done a World of Tanks video, so I wanted to get up off my duff and get one done. What we're going to do today is continue our review of mid-tier vehicles. For those of you that are new to World of Tanks, just getting into it, trying to figure out where you want to go, what vehicles you want to try out, and we're going to continue that review with the StugIII, the German Tier 5 tank destroyer. What we're going to do is take a look at the tech tree, show you how to get to this vehicle, show you where it leads, some of the decisions that you're going to have to make. Then we're going to take a look at its stats, see how it stacks up against other Tier 5 vehicles and other Tier 5 tank destroyers specifically, and then take a look at some examples of gameplay in the StugIII. Now, if you're not really interested in dry statistics and comparisons, there's an annotation on the top left of the screen right now. Go ahead and click that link. It'll take you straight to the gameplay, and you can watch me try to lay waste to folks with the StugIII. If you are, stick with us. We'll get to the review in just a second. So, taking a look at the tech tree, how do we get to the StugIII? Well, it all starts right here at Tier 2 with the Panzerjäger 1. Pick this little thing up, go on to the Marder 2, and then here's where you make your decision. Do you go up to the Sturmpanzer, right to the Marder 38, or to get to the Stug, you're going to want to go down to the Hetzer. Pick up the Hetzer, and then the Hetzer will take you to the StugIII. And then from there, you're going to continue on down the old school German tank destroyer tree. Vehicles like the Jagdpanzer IV, the Jagdpanther, and then really picking up and getting to some exciting things down here at Tier 8 with the Ferdinand and the Jagdpanther II, and then of course the outstanding Jagdtiger and the Jagdpanzer E100. So what are we missing out on, or what sacrifice are we making by making that choice? Well, as you can see, once you've gone to the Hetzer, you've kind of committed, because there is no way to get back up to the new German tank destroyer line. Once you make that decision here at the Marder 2, you're committed to it. The only way to get back into it is to go back and grind up enough experience to get to the Marder 38T, and then so on up and down the new German tank destroyer line. What's the difference between the two tank destroyer lines, you ask? Well, it's kind of hard to say. Each vehicle is a little bit different. But as a general rule of thumb, the new German tank destroyers tend to have slightly better guns, and from Tier 8 on, they tend to be a little more flexible because they have turrets that either traverse almost all the way or completely around. Now, they do pay a certain price for those better guns, slightly better guns, and the flexibility of the turrets, and that for the most part, they all have really crappy, either just garbage armor or huge weak points. For example, the giant turret on the Waffentrager E100 has 20 millimeters of armor. It can be absolutely devastated by HE rounds. All these vehicles here, the StugIII, the Nashorn, so on, all these things, they just have crap armor all the way around. Whereas if you go down the old school German tank destroyer line, you still have great guns. May not be as good as the guns up here, but they're still very good for the most part. And what you're going to get here is you'll not see any turrets, but you're always, all of these vehicles have good armor. And especially when you get to the Ferdinand, the Jagdtiger, and the Jagdpanzer E100, they have fantastic frontal armor. And that's kind of the flavor difference you're looking at in between the two trees. Is, do I want great frontal armor and a good gun, or do I want a great gun, the flexibility of a turret, and kind of trashy armor or obvious weak points? And then in the case of some vehicles, I believe it's the Nashorn, you have really limited ammunition loads in some of these vehicles as well. So something to keep in mind. That's kind of the choice you're making way back here at Tier 3 on the Marder 2. Do you decide, do you go to the Marder 38T in the new line or the Hetzer in the old line? So let's get back to the garage and take a look at the StugIII. The StugIII has 350 hit points, so you want to keep that in mind. You want to avoid taking shots whenever you can because you have a low hit point pool. Even in a tier 5 game, what you really need to be cognizant of is this vehicle will see tier 6 and occasionally tier 7 games. With only 350 hit points, you are well within one shot range of the KV-1S, the SU-100Y, the IS, and several other vehicles. All those big 122mm guns, 390 average damage. They will more often than not one-shot you. If we take a look at the vehicle's weight, max weight is 22.4 tons. In my configuration here, the vehicle weighs in at 20.77 tons. It has a 440 horsepower engine and a 40 km/h top speed limit. What all this means is it has a pretty decent horsepower to ton ratio and a good top speed, which it will reach, and it will reach that top speed fairly quickly. Bottom line, this is a fairly quick, fairly agile little vehicle. In point of fact, at tier 5 tank destroyers, the only thing that's going to outmaneuver this is the T-49, basically the American tier 5 Hellcat. There are some faster vehicles. The Su-85, as memory serves, has about a 45-48 km/h speed limit, but its horsepower to ton ratio is not as good, and it will struggle to reach that. Whereas the Stug not only will not struggle to reach its top speed limit, it will actually motor on up inclines and stuff at a fairly quick pace. Looking at the armor, 80mm front, which is really not bad. It's among the best frontal armor of all of the tier 5 vehicles, tier 5 tank destroyers I should say, and it's pretty good for any tier 5 vehicle with the possible exception of the heavy tanks. And it's also sloped. You see here you got good sloping going on either side of the gun mantle and decent sloping going on this front deck right here. The gun mantle is pretty troll as well. That will bounce some shots for you. You do have to be cognizant of the fact though that you do have some significant frontal weak points. The driver's viewport right here is a weak point. This flat area right here is a weak point which can be penetrated with a good strong tier 5 gun. And then obviously your lower glacis, as you can tell right there, is very flat, not angled very well at all. Can easily be penetrated, and unfortunately you'll often get set on fire if you get penetrated there. So overall, I'd say the armor is a mixed bag. Can be quite trollish. It can also completely let you down if the opponent knows where to aim. You do want to be cognizant of the fact that your side and indeed your rear armor are only 30mm. So if you're going to try to angle the tank between shots, you need to be very careful. Even if you're just wiggling to try to make it difficult for them to hit these two weak points here, you need to be very careful that you don't expose too much of your side armor, because your side armor is absolute garbage. Something to keep in mind. We're going to skip the gun statistics for right now. I want to come back to that. We're going to move on to the gun traverse speed. Obviously not a huge statistic in this case because we don't have a turret, but at 44 degrees per second, the gun will move back and forth in its field of fire fairly quickly. It does have a decent field of fire despite not having a turret, but like all non-turreted tank destroyers, it is a distinct limitation. You want to be cognizant of that fact as you pull into position to cover an avenue of approach or a choke point. The first thing you need to do is zoom in and make sure that you do have enough left and right movement in the gun to cover the entire choke point or avenue of approach that you're covering. Now moving on to view range and signal range, this is really where this tank unfortunately starts to fall down. 310 meter view range, absolute trash. By way of comparison, the M10 Wolverine, the American tier 5 turreted tank destroyer, not only does it have a turret, it has a 370 meter view range. Better than this vehicle. The M4 Sherman, which is just a medium tank, 370 meter view range, better than this vehicle. The KV-1, which is notorious for having a crap view range, it is a tier 5 Russian heavy, has the exact same view range as this vehicle right here. In fact, the only thing off the top of my head at tier 5 that has a worse view range than this vehicle is Su-85, which as memory serves is 285 meters. So something you need to keep in mind and something you're going to have to address either through crew skills or modules is the fact that you have a terrible view range in this vehicle. Signal range is also crap, 415 meters. American medium tanks have better signal range than this vehicle. So you're going to need to be cognizant of the fact that if there are scouts in front of you, you may or may not be able to see what they're seeing because your signal range is so low. Something to keep in mind. Now, going back to the gun, I said we'd come back to this. Let's take a look at the gun here. As you can see, the top gun available on this particular vehicle is a tier 6 gun. It is the 7.5 centimeter Pak 42 L70, and it really is the strong point of this vehicle. This 75mm gun offers a 13.33 round per minute rate of fire, which isn't the best, Some of the American 76mm can reach a higher rate of fire, but it is good. It is a good rate of fire. More importantly, this gun offers 150mm of penetration with its standard rounds. If there is a gun that has higher penetration available to a Tier 5 vehicle that's not a heavy, I will caveat by saying it's not a heavy, I don't know it. That is outstanding penetration for a Tier 5 vehicle. And indeed, you will not have much trouble going through Tier 6 vehicles frontally with this gun, with the possible exception of like the T-150 and the hull of a Churchill, things like that. This gun is great. It will penetrate most Tier 6 vehicles reliably, and some Tier 7 vehicles frontally will penetrate. Really, one of the strong suits of this gun is its penetration. Unfortunately, it falls down a little bit in average damage. It only has 135 points of average damage, and that is not too much of a big deal in your standard Tier 5 game. You won't really notice it too much. At Tier 6, it starts to become kind of a pain, and at Tier 7, that is really a problem, because it is really disappointing to penetrate a Tiger from the front, send one right through him, and then notice the tiny little sliver of health that you knock off. Now, to some degree, your rate of fire, which is above average, will make up for your low average damage, but at Tier 7 it's not really enough. But again, that's only Tier 7. You're not going to be in too awfully many Tier 7 games in this Tier 5 vehicle, but it is something you need to keep in mind. Your accuracy is outstanding at .33. Again, if there is a more accurate gun available to a Tier 5 vehicle, I don't know it off the top of my head. And your aiming time is also excellent, 1.7 seconds. And again, that just helps you take advantage of that high penetration and good rate of fire, and helps offset your weak alpha damage. So, all in all, not a bad vehicle. There are some things that are not reflected in the statistics that you do need to be aware of in order to make the most of this vehicle. First and foremost, this vehicle, you'll notice, it is very low profile, very squat, very small target. In fact, not all that much bigger than the ELC AMX, which is a tiny little thing. What that means is that you have a good inherent camouflage rating. This vehicle has a better camouflage rating than almost any other Tier 5 vehicle, with the exception of the light tanks. You need to take advantage of that, because like we talked about, you have a crappy view range. You will see a KV-1 before he sees you, but only because you have that good inherent camouflage rating. And he's only going to have to get like 5 or 10 meters closer to you before he sees you. So how do you fix that? Well, knowing that we have a better camouflage rating than he does, just because we're a small tank destroyer, you make up for it with your crew skills. You really should have all of your crew members trained in camouflage in order to get the most out of that inherent camouflage rating. Me, I'm cheap. I don't want to pay the gold to transition these skills once they get to 100%. So I've got, again, situational awareness on my loader and Sixth Sense on my commander, because that's what I want them to have at 100%, their first crew skill. Second crew skill will go to camouflage immediately. And then if you don't mind spending the gold, obviously the way to do it is to have all these guys at camouflage. When you pick up your second crew skill, you spend the gold, retrain this to Sixth Sense and situational awareness, and of course your second skill becomes camouflage. That's the ideal way to do it, because right now I'm not getting any benefit out of Sixth Sense at all. So that's something you need to keep in mind. Another thing you need to be aware of is your ammunition load. As you can see down here, you've only got 36 rounds of ammunition in this vehicle, which is kind of limited. Now, you don't need to count every shot that you fire on your fingers and be that concerned about it, but you do need to keep it in the back of your mind, especially when you're in a high tier game where vehicles have more hit points, and that 135 points of average damage is really going to start to hurt you. Now, I'm not the greatest tank destroyer driver in the whole wide world. I typically don't carry games in a tank destroyer, but some of you probably do, and there are better players than me, Quickie Baby, Jingles, all these guys that do carry in tank destroyers, and they have actually run out of ammunition and lost games just because they didn't have anything left to shoot. They weren't hurt, they didn't get killed, they were just out of ammunition. So if you're that kind of player, just be cognizant of that in the back of your mind, especially if you're shooting at Tier 7 tanks. We're going to take you a lot more shots to kill. Me personally, I'm only slightly above average. I've never run out of ammunition in this vehicle, but I have gotten to the point where I shot up all my AP ammo and had to shoot APCR simply because I had no AP ammo left. So yeah, something to keep in mind. In terms of modules, again, our module choices are all about making up for the fact that this is a great vehicle with a couple of exceptions, most especially the view range and the signal range. So what I do is I mount a binocular telescope. Something I recommend you do on any tank destroyer, but especially this one. All that's going to do is help make up for the fact that you have really crap view range. And really, in a tank destroyer, you need to be stationary somewhere, shooting at guys from far away, and it just plays right into the play style of a tank destroyer perfectly. And again, next module, camouflage net. Just again helping to compensate for the weak point of the vehicle, its view and signal range, and accentuate the strength of the vehicle, its inherent camouflage rating. If you can get this thing into a bush, get the camouflage set up, the camouflage net, and the binoculars, you are right there making up for one of your biggest weaknesses and playing to one of your biggest strengths, your camouflage rating and the penetration, range, and accuracy of that gun. And then my third module, again, is all about the same thing. I mount a medium caliber tank gun rammer because, again, great penetration, great accuracy, mediocre alpha damage at best. So a medium caliber tank gun rammer, all it does is it even more speeds up my rate of fire, which allows me to throw rounds downrange faster and help compensate for the fact that you do have weak alpha damage in this vehicle. So in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's the StugIII. To recap, its strong points are its outstanding accuracy, its mobility, and its really high penetration. Its weak points are its relatively low hit points, its craptastic view range and signal range, and its, I don't want to say low, but it's slightly lower ammunition load than probably any other vehicle that you've been in up to this point. So without further ado, let's take a look at some gameplay in the StugIII and see if we can't get something done with this little vehicle. So here we are in Westfield in our StugIII. This is a tier 7 game, as you can see, and I've already started it. I didn't want you guys to have to sit through like 3 or 4 minutes of me camping in a bush because 1, I'm a tank destroyer, and 2, it's a tier 7 game. But as you can see by the minimap, basically what has happened is that we have pretty much won the north. There's still a couple of tank destroyers and tanks hiding along in the city right here, but the south has gotten rolled, and there's at least 2 to 4 tanks coming around this corner going to push towards our base. What I want you to see here is just look at how fast this Stug can reposition and the accuracy of the gun when these tanks start trying to roll into our cap zone. So you see here I decided to move. I guess it'd help if I played it back in regular speed. I've decided to go ahead and shift south and try to head off these tanks. There you can see on the minimap now there's 3 of them. I think there ends up being 4 coming down here. So we're going to get in these bushes on the high ground here, observing almost the entire cap circle. And we're just going to be patient and wait on them to drive into our sights. Trying to get a shot there at that Panzer IV, hoping that he would come over the hill. And there's the first target, ELC AMX. Unfortunately, he's moving on out, and this is about 500 meters. See if we can line it up. Look at the accuracy of that gun, 500 meters. And we hit that ELC dead on. A little too much lead on that shot. And then not enough on the third shot. And that was just bad. I never should have taken that. ELC kills the M41, but we put the next shot into him. Firing blind there, hoping that I would catch him as he tried to move into the bushes. Now note that there's a bush in between me and him, so he can't see me firing yet. And what we're going to do is be patient. What I was expecting him to do is come right out of that bush. Instead, the T-21 to our left spots him as he turns to engage him, and we're able to put the third shot into that ELC AMX and secure the kill. Nine to 9 right now. It's a fairly close game. It's all going to come down to whether or not they're able to do something down here in the south, because they've pretty much lost the north. I'm going to continue to wait here and be patient. Apparently the IS-2 doesn't like tank destroyers being tank destroyers. We're gonna ignore him. It's not even worth arguing with people like that. T-34-85 I feel like is the bigger threat in this scenario. So we engage him first because he's up on the high ground. He's got a fairly decent gun. So we take him out and then transition down to the SU-100, try to help the T-20. But unfortunately we don't have a shot because of the intervening terrain. Trying to get one into a side there just over that hill. First one goes too high, the second one's a little bit low. It's a very tricky shot. We're going to wait right here because that SU-100 is going to have to come out in order to accomplish anything. And there's the shot we were looking for. Put it right into his flank. He sees us, but it's too late. And the 150 millimeters of penetration is more than enough to go through the SU-100. Take a shot there from the Panzer IV, but that's the last mistake he's ever going to make in this particular game. And so there you have it. Able to defend the flag, stop that push, and secure 4 kills. And basically decide the end of the game. No one else was in a position to defend our cap. You can see they're still monkeying around in the town. We'll go ahead and speed this up. Not much action here. I do want to show you though, watch the speed of the Stug going up this incline. This is a fairly steep incline. It's enough to slow down even tanks that are known for being quick, like the T-34-85 and so forth. And look at the Stug. It maintains upwards of 30 kilometers an hour going up this incline until we get right here to the really steep part. And it's still going up this incline at over 20 kilometers an hour. So yeah, like I said in the garage, the Stug is a fairly swift, maneuverable little machine. And as soon as it starts to level out just a little, you see we immediately pick up speed back up to 25 kilometers an hour, now approaching 30. So yeah, I just wanted to show that to you because the Stug, I think a lot of people underestimate just how fast it can be. We'll go ahead and speed it up. You can see we're reaching 35, 40 kilometers an hour even on this slight incline. Unfortunately, the rest of our team is able to get over there and secure the kill on the T-29 and the M41, and we get the game. I'm not going to look at the results screens. Not really spectacular game. Just wanted to show you the accuracy of the gun there on that moving ELC, and then the speed of the Stug as it goes up that incline. Let's take a look at another video that isn't quite so stacked against us. Now this is a little more like it. We got a tier 5 game, an encounter game on Lakeville. Don't feel quite so vulnerable when there are not a bunch of tier 6 and 7 tanks rolling around. And this is more typical matchmaking for the Stug. What I'm thinking when this game starts is we need a couple of tanks to go and protect the valley. Not many, but at least a couple, so that they don't just roll completely unopposed right up behind us. So I'm going to go west out here and take up the standard, one of the standard tank destroyer spots in the valley, and see if I can't prevent that from happening. I'm actually in a platoon with Schwant this game. He's in his T1, and he notices that nobody takes the middle road. So even though it's not, I wouldn't say it's a great position for a T1 to be in because of its weak flank armor and the fact that it's so long, he's going to go out there and try to plug the middle road just in case somebody gets sneaky. And right away, we get a T1 heavy trying to push the valley. And you see there that the 75mm on the Stug has no problems going through the front of a T1 whatsoever. Just gonna wait here, see what comes up. I figured there was something else. Got a little bit of a shot at the top of the KV-1, but they do have artillery, and I'd really rather not give my position away. Not only to the KV-1, but also to their artillery over a terrible shot like that. So I'm just gonna wait, play it patient, and let that KV-1 come on up. Yeah, keep coming, keep coming. I'm gonna wait till we see his hull. There we go. And of course, RNG. First round goes low.
Penetration.
Second one goes right in though.
Enemy is hit.
And here, this is what I'm talking about. Absolutely no trouble penetrating the front
Got him.
of the KV-1, and there we're able to secure our first kill on one of the enemy's tier 5 heavies. Now, if you take a look at the mini map, look at the disaster that is the town right now. So I immediately decide these guys are going to have to hold their own. I just noticed there's another heavy tank from our team camping behind me. So between the two of them, they're going to have to handle that, because if somebody doesn't get over here and save the town, this is going to go bad quickly. We're up 5-2, but I'm not convinced the team is in a good spot over here in the town. You see Schwann has pushed his way fairly far up the middle road. He's been engaged with this Panzer IV. I stop and try to get a clutch shot into this turret as he goes by, but unfortunately it doesn't go in. Now I'm looking at the mini-map, and I'm noticing that the far eastern road on the 0 line is wide open. And you see that heavy tank sitting there at Echo 0. And what I'm afraid is that he's going to start pushing south down the extreme eastern side of the 0 line and flank this heavy tank and tank destroyer we have just to my front left, this Churchill and this T-40. So I'm going to go over here and try to prevent that from happening. And you see there, unfortunately, the enemy artillery gets a beat on Schwann and takes him out. And now it's 7-8, and the game isn't looking quite so rosy. Come up here looking for that heavy tank. Don't see him. He may have gotten himself destroyed. They managed to kill that heavy tank that was back behind us and to our left, so that means I'm safe to push up. And first target's a T-40 and a B-1. Not really worried about either one of these.
We've lost a track. Penetration.
You see the T-40 is really having a hard time penetrating.
Enemy is hit.
I'm going to use my repair kit because I don't want him to get smart and start putting shots into my flank. As long as I keep my front to him, I'm not worried. KV-1 comes up there and steals the kill. So we're going to slot in behind this T-1 and start putting shots into his back. Go for his tracks there because I don't want him getting all the way around. And now this T-1's in serious trouble. And we're able to secure the kill on that one, making that the second tier 5 heavy we've destroyed this game. Here's the B-1, just trying to get away.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
And that's it for him. Looking for this KV-1.
Enemy is hit.
Now this KV-1's a pretty decent player, or at least he's having a decent game. He's already on 4 kills. So want to be kind of careful. Fired there on the move. Unfortunately it didn't go in. Not sure where that round went.
Penetration.
You see he's trying to chew us up, but it's not going to work as long as he's exposing his flank like that. He's going to run out of hit points before we do. And we're able to secure that kill as well, bringing the total up to 3 heavy tanks that we've destroyed this game. And I'm going to go back out and try to help mop up these last 2 remaining heavy tanks. Again, always trying to get on the flank. Don't really want to sit right in front of heavy tanks. See if I can get a cheeky shot over this hill right here. Yep.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
And we're able to secure the kill on that KV-1. Push on around the mountain, because I suspect that T1, if he's looking for us, is looking for us to sit right where we were at and camp. So that's why we're going to go around, try to get on his flank, maybe even get behind him. Kind of surprised he's not sitting right over here. So we'll push on around, use this rock up here for cover, and there he is. He's pushed up, and he's pushed up too far, because now he's exposed his back to us. There's a good hit in the rear of that T1. Another hit. I see the turret coming around, so I'm going to go ahead and back out now. I've only got 92 hit points. One shot kill for that T1 if he hits us. Hopefully he's looking at that Churchill. Come out and try the shot. Nope. Still looking at me. But there again, you see the low profile of the Stug plays to our advantage. His first shot goes high. Second shot catches our left track as we're backing out, but it does no damage. All it does is track us. And now the Churchill's on him.
Track fixed.
And the Churchill finishes him off. And just like that, we've turned the town around, and now it's just a matter of hunting down their last artillery. You see there, the Churchill wants us to cap. Why? Why would I cap in this situation? Why wouldn't I just go for the kill? So we're going to speed this up. We'll push through the town and try to get up towards their spawn. There's some expert driving there, ramming into a Hulk. Because I suspect that artillery is either hanging around the lake where he can drown himself, or up in the corner at Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. But lo and behold, there he is. I thought at first he was driving into the lake, but it looks like he's actually trying to make a move towards the flag. So kudos to him, really, for not having drowned himself already. We're gonna go in here and set up and try to take him out as he comes across the intersection. Shoot for his tracks. Don't want him to turn. That goes in, takes out his tracks. I knew he was going to be a two-shot kill, and now we're able to kill him at our leisure. So there you have it, folks. 5 kills in a Tier 5 game on Lakeville. Let's check out the results screen. So there are the results from our battle on Lakeville. Was able to get a mastery badge out of that game, 28,322 credits. And 2,388 experience. Doubled, of course, because it was our first victory of the day. Let's check out the team score. And you'll see there I was able to do 2,136 points of damage, secure 5 kills, and rake in 1,194 base experience. And really carry the team. Look at the rest of the damage scores. Pretty bad there, with the exception of that Churchill. The other team didn't play all that well either, though, so it was really just a matter of who's going to have the couple of players that have a good game in this case. Fortunately, that was one of the few where I was able to have a good game. If we look at the detailed report, I fired 24 shots, 20 of which hit, and all 20 of those hits were penetrations, giving us our 2,136 points of damage. Took 9 hits, only 5 of which penetrated, got 4 bounces. Of course, some of those, in fact, several of them, I believe, were from Tier 4 tanks. But remember, the T1 also got a penetrating hit, but it did no damage. All it did was knock our tracks off. But that gave us a total potential damage received of 895 points. Spotted 1 enemy tank, damaged 8, destroyed 5. Got credit for 218 points of assistance damage. And of the 28,322 credits, we unfortunately didn't bring any home because I used a consumable, and I did shoot some premium rounds there at the end because, as you saw, that game was close and I didn't want a chance bounce to ruin that game. So no profit on this one, but normally that's not the case. You will normally turn a profit in your Stug. So there you have it, folks. That is my review of the StugIII. I really think it's still one of, if not the best, Tier 5 tank destroyer, at least in terms of gun. The gun really is fantastic. It's very maneuverable vehicle and excellent camo rating. You just do have to be aware that your view range is really not good. Your signal range is not good. And do be cognizant of those low hit points if you get pulled into a tier 6 or tier 7 game. So that's it for now, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.